evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Raising Bulls, brought to you by the Beautiful Game Network, Golden Goal Press, and Roughneck Scarves. We are the only podcast dedicated to the New York Red Bulls 2 of USL, or the USL Championship. I tend to say championship, but I think I get tripped up on it sometimes. Tonight, we got a lot to talk about. A huge win midweek, a bigger scoreline win on the weekend for the Montclair Miners, the Baby Bulls. We've got a little bit of news about a certain defender we've been waiting to see for quite a while. And then two fantastic interviews, one with Jean-Christophe Koffi and one with returning guest Chris Lema. I got to ask him, obviously, about the dance question. We have new entrants into the worst dance competition for the season, the Derek Etienne Award, as it were. Then we're going to follow that up with a little talk about the match this coming week against Memphis and an article from The Athletic and USL News in general. Joining me tonight, it's Mr. Joe Steen. Hello, Joe. How are you?
Good, Joe. Two back-to-back wins, one impressive comeback and one utter beatdown of a team this weekend. So pretty impressive wins. They're back up to second, and hopefully they can get a result this weekend.
I'll tell you what, the win midweek, and we'll talk about it obviously in detail coming up, but as a writer writing the recap of that match, I was ready to pull my hair out. I wrote it first as a loss with 15 minutes left in the game, as I am wont to do. Then had to write it as a draw, and finally as a win. So that was fun. Had a good time there. At least that's only a couple of paragraphs, right? But yeah, all right. Let's jump into that match. Tom Barlow back with the two team, first time in a very long time. We're expecting big things right out of the gate. He scores. Let's see, that was 7 minutes into the match? No, 15 minutes in. It looks like the Red Bulls are going to cruise. They're completely owning Bethlehem Steel through those first 15 minutes. They let a goal in on the counter. All right, not great. They let one in 17. No, I think it was more than that. Whatever. They let it in a minute into the next half. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah.
It was ridiculous. Issa Ryan scored the first of his two goals moments into the second half. He picks up another one in the 58th minute, then immediately throws up all over the field. One of the weirdest things you've ever seen. He stays on for a couple more minutes after that, maybe about 10 minutes, 12 minutes. He comes out, and then all of a sudden, like Beth Steel had been cursed, Jared Stroud and Tom Barlow put a hurtin' on Beth Steel in the final 15 minutes. Huge comeback win. I think story of the match is obviously, Tom Barlow and Jared Stroud. Low key though, I think John Tolkien coming in is what changes that match, and the way that the team responded following that was just fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to believe that he was only 17 years old, and I mean, John spoke really highly of him after the game. He was great coming on. I think he was just, like you said, it was such a big impact for him to come on. He made a great impact, assisted on one of Barlow's goals. And Tom Barlow, I mean, we all see why he got a first-team contract this year. I mean, he plays one game. He was one game back with Red Bull 2, and he scores 2 goals and grabs an assist on Jared's winner. So, I mean, Tom's just been great all season, for Red Bulls 2 that he's been there, and he's done such a good job up with the first team. Of course, we all know what an important player Jared Stroud is. Sets up one of Barlow's goals, gets the winner. Scores 2 goals in this game, gets the winner off a great assist from Barlow. And I mean, it was weird how they lost control of this game early on in the second half of kind of a defensive lapse. I thought when Alan Giannis came on, I thought he did for Preston Kilwan. I thought he did a good job at center back, which we really haven't seen him play too much of. And I got to give credit to John Wolniak for making some changes and this team got back on track in a hurry, and they were able to get out of there with a victory.
Yeah, you touched on pretty much all of the talking points that I wanted to bring up in this match. Giannis, as a center back, looked capable, and far more capable than he has looked on the right or left this season. And that brings up a really interesting point, is should they think about switching him to a center back position, because it's clearly not working on the wings. And if he can provide sort of a different look if things are going poorly there, and just someone who can distribute out of the back, it might not be a bad thing to have him back there.
I don't think so. I guess it's going to depend on if the first team maybe signs one of the outside backs in the coming weeks. But I think he's lower on the depth chart. I think Giannis Luba, again, he assisted on Jared's goal. I think Reece Buckmaster's definitely ahead of him. I think Eduardo Rito's ahead of him. And John Tolka now is put in, I mean, as we'll talk about, 2 really good shifts since he's made a start. So, I mean, I guess it's better to put him in a position that maybe they didn't realize he was comfortable in. I mean, he looked comfortable enough when he came in. And, I mean, this team is kind of hurting for center back depth. His name escapes me right now.
Oh, man. Preston? Sean. Okay.
If Sean's with the first team, they're kind of hurting for center back depth. So, I mean, why not? If he looked good enough in the game, and so they frustrated them for the last 20 minutes. And, I mean, the team's hurting for center back depth, so why not try him out there? I mean, if you need depth, he's available for the position now, and I think he looked comfortable enough there.
Yep, I fully agree. Tom Barlow, what a week for him. Yes, the Red Bulls lost last night, but that's his 3rd goal in a week and an assist. Congrats, Tom. Fantastic job. Issa Ryan, throwing up. Do you think one of the Red Bulls put a hex on him? Is that what we saw there? I tried to get a comment from Evan Villela after the match, like, what the heck was that? What's going on? He had no idea. So what do you think? Did the Red Bulls hex Issa Ryan and then take control of the match?
They did. They did a pretty good job of it. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. I've actually never seen. I've never really seen.
I keep trying to talk.
I never really. No, it's fine. I've never really seen something like that happen before, and I mean, I guess it worked. I mean, Bethlehem's kind of been hexing Red Bull 2 for a while now, so I mean, maybe it's good the tables turned.
Yeah, they finally got him back for all of the vexing, I would say. Instead of the hexing, they were vexing.
Vexing, yeah.
Who on the Red Bulls is most likely the magic user? If you had to pick one of the players who, was maybe part magic user, maybe they attended Hogwarts as a youngin', who would that be?
That's tough. Jeez. I'm going to go with Giannis Luba. I'm going to say him.
Okay. I think that's fair. I would say... I'm going to say
it could be Alan Giannis, because it kind of happened after he came on.
That's true. I'm going to give it to Tom Barlow, though, because there's got to be something supernatural happening there. His speed, his ability to find the net, it's just not natural. Okay.
True. This is true.
If you had to give a man of the match for that one, who are you giving it to?
There's 3 guys I'm really thinking of.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with. But I want to give a shout to. I'm just proving why he got a first-team contract, 2 more goals. He's got 10 on the year in USL, and I think he's only played 7 games. So that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I think absolutely Tom Barlow is deserving of it. Just to be different, I'm going to give it to Jared Stroud. It was his birthday, after all. I think he turned 23, which, when I say that, it makes me feel so old. young Jared Stroud turning 23. He's in his second year. He's the all-time leader for assists for Red Bulls too. Yeah, I'll give it to him. He had a good match. Now we're going to turn our attention to a different kind of big win, one that came on the weekend. I was unable to attend this match. And of course, without me being there, the Red Bulls drop 8 goals on Atlanta United 2, which is not as nice to say as New York Red Bulls 2. I don't know why. I just prefer it better. It all started in the 19th minute. Chris Lema finally getting on the board. I don't think that's his first goal of the year, but certainly it's nice to see him score. You'll hear later on I tease him about how many times he's hit the post this season. Jared Stroud sends in the ball. 2 minutes later, Jared Stroud gets on the board. Then Sean Nealis a minute later. So within 3 minutes, they've got 3 goals, and things got out of hand fast after that. Jared Stroud, again, before the end of the first half, adds a 4th. They weren't done scoring. Chris Lema gets 3 more in the second half. Marcus Epps also takes a penalty kick goal. And yes, they do give one up, but they also draw a red card in the match. This was just a dominating performance from the Red Bulls too. And I know it's hard to really get excited about beating a team like Atlanta United 2 that is, bottom of the table, not really performing all that well. They lost their best goal scorer to their MLS side. So it's not the most challenging match, but when they put a hurting on a team like this, it certainly makes, I think, everyone take notice.
Yeah, and they did basically what they did last year to them, which they just came out. They knew they were the better team. They from minute one, and they looked it. Atlanta had some chances early on, but once the first goal went in, that pretty much signaled the end. Got to give it to Chris Lema. He quadrupled, I think, his goal output. I think he had 1. Now he has 5 in the season. So he had a really good game. Pretty much everybody did. John Tolkien, with him against Andrew Carlton, there's a nice little gif of him basically making Carlton fall down. This was I don't know how to put it any other way than they destroyed them. This wasn't close, and it was great to see Jared have another big impact on this game. John Tolkien had a really good game. Chris Lema had a good game. Pretty much everybody had a good game, and they really sent a message to the league. They moved up to second place. They're only now 3 points off of Tampa Bay. Indy 11 does have a couple games in hand, but you're supposed to beat these kind of teams. And this was, I think, the most complete performance they've put forward on the season, I would say. When
you look at Tom Barlow's week, obviously he's not playing in this game, but just talking about that, he scored 2, added an assist. Beth Steel scores another one last night for the Red Bulls at Toronto. He's got 3 goals and an assist, and that's not even the best performance of the week from these guys. Chris Lema with 4 goals, Jared Stroud with 4 goals and assists last week. It just, when things are going well for this team, they are going very well this season. When they hit the skids, it's not catastrophic like years past. It can be bad, I think, at times, but so many strong performances across the board. It's really hard to single any one out. But with the way that Lema played in that advanced sort of 10 role for him and picking up all of these sort of loose balls around the box and essentially it's almost like acting like a 6 in terms of regaining possession and hoovering up the ball, as it were. But then to then turn them into goals, it was something that we're not used to necessarily seeing from him, and it was a welcome change of pace.
Yeah, I thought on the day he was great, and I really thought he's put a lot of good shifts in this year, Lema, and I think he's been unlucky. And it was really good to see him grab a good amount of goals and just continue to develop into hopefully a midfielder that could be with the first team.
The other thing that I want to talk about from this match, we don't get a lot of it obviously. So when you look at the back line, and it's a little bit different from weeks past, Nealis and Kilwine. I always say Kilwine. It's Kilwine. Come on. He's been on the show, Joe. Get it together. Nealis and Kilwine together, I thought were a pretty good pairing. They're certainly intimidating in terms of just pure size. I was looking at the match photo that they're together. Kilwine is on his tippy toes, so he looks taller than Sean Nealis. But at first I thought he was, which I did not realize. But the two of them are like twin towers back there. You don't see that a ton with this team. But I thought that they handled everything really well. They weren't necessarily challenged a lot, but what did come their way, they dealt with, I thought, pretty well. It's nice seeing Tolkien and Buckmaster, two guys who can defend very well and move forward well. I thought they added a lot to the attack. And Zayats continues to be, I think, a revelation this year with the way that he's played. I think of a few matches where, overall his performance wasn't great when he first came on, but he's been probably one of the most consistent players on the team since he scored that first goal. He's looked very comfortable and done very well.
Yeah, I think it was more of, just getting consistent game time with him. I mean, he had a tough time breaking into the squad with Lema and Koffi in there, and then when Koffi had his injuries, he was able to break in. I don't really think he, has any intention of relinquishing that spot. I think he's put in a lot of good shifts, and he's been a big revelation. And as far as Kilwine and Nealis go, the two of them aren't the fastest, but they are physical, and I thought positioning, they played very well in this game, even though they weren't really challenged. Obviously, you mentioned Kilwine's ability to he looks to make that pass to break the line really quickly, and it's something that young players don't try often, but he has the confidence to do it even when it's not coming off for him. So I really the lineup they put out and the result they got, I think was great.
Yeah. Across the board, a lot of really great stuff. I think it's funny, they scored 8 goals in this match, and if you were to look at that and look at the lineup and see Jorgensen in there and think, okay, he doesn't score in this match, there's something really wrong, would be misguided. I think the way that he played and the runs that he made opened up a lot of space for the guys around him, and it was a very selfless type of performance that, again, it's not going to turn any heads because you look and he doesn't score a goal in this match, doesn't have an assist in this match, but he was a very important cog and a big part of how they were able to find so much space in the box for a lot of the match.
Yeah, we've talked about Jorgensen, and I think he continues to get better. Even though, and again, we've talked about this, he does score goals, but sometimes as a forward, what you do off the ball is just as important as scoring goals. And I thought he, for the most part, did a pretty good job in this game.
Yep. Fully agree. Okay, let's get a man of the match for this one.
It's got to be Chris Lema. He has 4 goals in this game, and he played very well. So I got to give it to Chris Lema.
Yep, agree. Chris Lema. Guest tonight. I didn't just give it to you because you're a guest tonight. Okay, Chris? I know what you're thinking. But you did. You had a good match. Had a good week, gotta say. Okay, some news real quick. Roy Boateng is back training. That is an amazing sign. The staff didn't think that he would be back so soon. I think some projections thought that it would be later in the year, and maybe he would get back for the playoffs if they were lucky, but most likely not see any time this year. And he has exceeded all expectations and gotten himself back on the field in July. So that's incredible. And hopefully that means he can get himself back up to speed and we can see him get some time during the end of the season where, depth can be problematic, especially with players, moving up and down with the first team. If anyone gets injured, it would be very good to have additional center back help.
Yeah. We touched on it earlier with Giannis playing there. I mean, you can't have this team in previous years hasn't had the depth, especially when games get congested down the stretch. And I think they have a couple makeup games to do now as well. So hopefully, he's healthy and they can use him going forward.
And let's not forget that Roy was a player that the Red Bulls were really excited about getting. When we looked at the defenders coming into the season, he was a guy that I think a lot of guys a lot of fans, not guys, were earmarking and keeping tabs on where he would end up being. Injured early, a little bit unfortunate, but hopefully we get to see some of what made him stand out to Dennis Hamlet and the Red Bulls.
Yeah, you touched on it. Definitely one of the guys they were looking forward to. I think he's going to have to now work his way into the team, but I definitely am interested to see what he brings.
Yeah, should be good. Alan Yanis, he's going to be heading with Guatemala, the U23s, to play Costa Rica. Or maybe they did that already. I don't think they did already. Oh, man. Let's look it up. I'm really bad at preparing of late. Okay, no, they played yesterday. They have another match coming up on the 21st. They lost 3-0 in that match. I don't have a squad to tell you whether or not he played or saw time. So, yeah. I'm blowing it, guys. Let's see. Might be able to get something from one of these guys. Nope. That is super duper old. Okay. If you click on the Guatemala U23 team on ESPN, it goes to page not found. Good job. Good job, ESPN. But so they lost 3-0 in that match. They do play again the 21st, which is Saturday. Is that right? Yes.
Yeah.
Nope, Sunday. They play on Sunday for the second leg. They're down 3-0. It's going to be a big hill to climb. That's for Olympic qualifying, by the way. Okay, we're going to take a break now. And when we come back, first you're going to hear my interview with Jean-Christophe Koffi, and then my interview with Chris Lema. Double interview week, people. It's very exciting. So stick around. And we're back. This is a big show this week. And joining me first, we've got first-year New York Red Bulls midfielder and so far the only DC crossover player. It's Jean-Christophe Koffi. How are you?
I'm good, Joe. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for coming on.
No problem.
So, kind of a weird situation with you because you had your homegrown rights transferred to the Red Bulls.
Yeah.
I don't think that we've really seen much of that in the league so far. There's a couple players that come to mind, but you're sort of a unique situation. When did you find out that the Red Bulls were interested, and maybe what was the genesis of that move?
So after my spring semester of my third year, I was looking to make that move to the next level, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to go to Europe or start here and then later move on. And I signed with the agent, which was James Grant, La Yorks, and he started working for me. He started asking around to the clubs because my college coach told me that a couple MLS clubs were interested. And but I wanted to go away from DC. I just felt like I've been there for too long, and I wanted to go away. DC was interested in signing me, but I just didn't think that it was the right move for me in terms of my development as a player. And I also know Derek Etienne, which we both played at UVA together, and I was talking to him too about the league and how and what team would fit me best in terms of being a young player and progressing, and he helped me a lot with that too. And he told me that Red Bull is a great environment, great training ground, and I'm gonna get better every day, every time I step on the field. So New York Red Bull can play DC United, I think, in that summer, last summer, and they asked my agent they asked to meet me in DC, so I went and met with them, and they told me that they were interested, and they asked me a couple hard questions. They were like, "Are you ready to be a pro? Like, are you ready to make that move to the next step? Because we're really interested, but you gotta be like, when you come to an environment, it's a serious environment, and you gotta give your 100% out every day. There's no, you have no more classes. All you have to do is focus on soccer." And I said yes to all those questions, and from then it was just a matter of getting the deal done with DC, and getting my rights traded to New York.
During that interview process, because I think you're the first person to really, talk about that in any detail. What was really going through your head at that point? Because I can imagine as a young guy, it's definitely exciting to be looking at that next step, but there's got to be some amount of maybe nervousness isn't necessarily the right word, but maybe butterflies around the idea of really taking that plunge.
Yeah, it was actually really stressful during that period because I wasn't entering the draft or anything. It was just like a decision that me and my family made. So it was like kind of out of the blue. So like, I don't think clubs were kind of prepared for it. So during that time, it was very stressful because DC also really wanted me because I was one of their top academy prospect, and they wanted to sign me at the end of my last fall season, and I told them that like I don't want to wait, and I was ready to make that move to the next step. So then they said that, okay, we'll offer you something now, and I talked to my agent too, and he decided that he told me that the best fit for me would be New York Red Bulls, their style of play and the type of player that I am will be the best fit for me. So
yeah, and
so that in that period it was very complicated because DC was fighting hard to get me to make me stay, and New York was also pushing to get me, but I already had my mind up about coming to New York.
Well, and I think, just in terms of track record of young guys having opportunities, I would imagine that New York would become a more attractive destination. And, like you mentioned, that you were looking at sort of, spreading your wings a little bit in terms of getting out of the DC area, right?
Yeah. Yeah, of course. I wanted to get out.
So coming into New York, you said that you knew Derek, but what was that experience like? I'm sure that it was a little bit hectic at first because the work that they expect out of the players is very high level.
Yeah, so my last college game that I played was in, I think, March of last year, and I picked up a little hip injury, so I stopped practicing and training and all that, and for like a month or two, and then I got back to running, and then I signed in like September. So during that whole period of time, I didn't have like proper training, so it was really, really, really hard.
Yeah,
coming into the first team and start practicing right away. It was a really humbling experience, to be honest, because you don't actually know how the level is until you're actually on the field. and it was a humbling experience for me to come in and start working every day. But it was very hard to adjust, I would say.
But I would imagine, coming in at the end of last season made it a little bit easier getting up to speed for this year with the team. Yeah?
Yeah. So when I came in, I couldn't play games. So because of my visa status, I came in the United States as a diplomat on a diplomatic visa because of my dad, and that I couldn't play any games because I was under that status. So I had to change my status, and that took a while. That took at least I signed in September. It took 4 months. I didn't get until early January. So I was just practicing and learning the system and getting fit. I couldn't get game fit because I couldn't play any games. So
were you nervous at all that maybe that would not go through, the changing your status for your visa?
It was just about finding time,
right,
to go all the way, because I had to go all the way to Ivory Coast, Abidjan, to apply for that visa. And right after the season, they made the arrangement, and I went and I got it. It was simple. It was very easy.
And that's where you grew up, in the Ivory Coast?
Yeah. When
did you come to the U.S.?
When I was 11, in 2009.
And that was part of, you mentioned something about your father?
Yeah, so my dad works for the Embassy of Ivory Coast.
Ah, okay.
The financial counselor over there in D.C.
So did you start playing before you got here, or did you start in the Ivory Coast?
So I started playing soccer my whole life. I used to play in Ivory Coast all the time, but I've never been part of an actual team until I moved to the United States. I was just playing for fun until when I got here. And
when did you end up on DC's radar?
So I was playing for a club team in Virginia named Tab Barca at the time. And I played there for a year and a half. And then it was like a travel team. And then one of the kids on the team, one of the kids on the team was from Ivory Coast, so his mom knew my parents, and they were telling me about it. That his mom really liked me. She thought I was a great player, so she wanted her son to go to DC United, and she told my parents about it, and she told the coaches about it, and they were like, "Yeah, we had our eyes on him, so have him come and train with us and see how it goes." So when I went for the first time, and I really liked the environment. As a kid, that I'd never really been part of a real club before.
Right.
Seeing all the training facility and how everything was there, it really got me really excited, and I decided to make the move there when I was 14.
At that point, did you start to have those dreams that maybe this is going to be a profession?
Yeah. So I've always wanted to be a pro. Since I was a kid, that's all I talk about to my parents. My parents always ask me, "What do you want? What do you want to study? What do you want to do?" And I never had an answer because
I
only saw myself as a professional soccer player.
What was their response to that?
They were like, "Okay, you can do that after you finish it."
Yeah, of course. Who were some of the players that you were looking up to that maybe helped, I guess, foster that dream?
At the time, Yaya Toure was very, very, very dominant in the Premier League.
Yeah.
So I really liked him. and he was from Ivory Coast too.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, Yaya Toure was probably the guy.
That's a pretty good role model.
I used to play center forward when I was younger.
That's the footballer story. Everybody I've ever talked to, well, maybe not everybody, but I would say probably about 90% of the people I've talked to started out as center forwards and then slowly drifted to other positions of need. Is that kind of what happened with you after a while? You know, they were looking for other midfielders and you had to drop back?
So I started playing center. I mean, I've always played forward.
Mm-hmm.
And then my U16 year, I started playing the 10 for the U16. And then when I moved to college, we were playing like a 4-4-2, 4-4-2 with like a drop forward, like a false 9.
Mm-hmm.
So I was playing that. And then my second year of college, one of my teammates, I don't know if you know him, Edward Opoku, he signed for
of course
Columbus Crew. Yeah. So he said, "Bro, I think you'll be a really good 6. You should try it." And I was like, "Really?" I've never played that before. So then I had a conversation with the coaching staff, with Terry Boss at UVA at the time. And he said, "Yeah, we've actually been thinking about it." And then I think second preseason game, I didn't even start that game. They put me in at halftime as a 6. And ever since, I never looked back, just played that position every game, every minute.
Does it feel more natural to be there in the 6, dropping back? Yeah?
Yeah. Because I like to be, I can score. I like to be on the ball all the time.
Yeah, that's true.
And create. So I feel like, and at the 6, at UVA, we played the 3-back, which, and like a lot of the ball was, like our build up was coming through me, and I really loved that. So more people see me as like a higher player, like an 8 or more like a 10, because I can shoot from distance and stuff. But right now, I'm just trying to learn more of the position, because it's a very complex position.
Yeah, it sure is. And certainly in a team like the Red Bulls, it is. What is your sort of takeaway so far from this season, and what are your expectations for the rest of it?
I think we started the season really well. And I feel like the coaches want to see, the first team coaches want to see that they can trust me on the field, because they didn't really see me play games until this year. Mm-hmm. So, and they're always talking to me. They're always teaching me and telling me things that I should do and not do. And I think the season has been going well. Still learning the system. It's a complex system, but I feel like I've learned a lot, and our team is doing really well. So I can't complain.
That is very true. The last 2 results were just unreal to watch. Was it a little bit crazy to be a part of those?
Yeah, it was crazy, because we know that when we step on the field, our chance of winning are high if we're doing everything right, because we train hard. We train hard, and we feel like we can beat anybody on a good day. So
I think that's very, very fair. Before I let you go, because this has been absolutely fantastic, I'm going to subject you to the lightning round. Are you ready? Okay.
Yeah.
Popcorn, yes or no?
Yes.
Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars.
Okay. Marvel or DC?
Marvel.
Super Mario or Sonic the Hedgehog?
Super Mario.
Your favorite team to play as in FIFA?
In FIFA,
Yeah.
FC Barcelona.
It's a, little club. Not a lot of people know them. I think it's okay. And this last one, I'm calling it the Derek Etienne Award. Who is the worst dancer on the New York Red Bulls 2?
Worst dancer?
Yeah.
Marcus Epps.
A new challenger. I'm very excited about that. Well, Jean-Christophe, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
And-
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. When we come back, we're going to be talking to a midfield partner, Chris Lema, so stick around. And we're back. This is a big show. We're on our second interview of this one. And this time we're joined by second-year Red Bulls midfielder, Chris Lema. I say Lema, and now I'm wondering, a lot of people say Lema.
Yeah, it's Lema, but I'm Mr. Lema.
How did I get Jean-Christophe Koffi right, but I get Chris Lema wrong? It's terrible.
Yeah. The ones that seem easy always end up being the hardest, right?
Of course. That's why it's Jared Stroud, right? No?
Apparently.
This game this past weekend was kind of a nutty one. I was expecting, maybe a high score just based on historical data. I was not expecting 8-1, and I certainly wasn't expecting 4 goals from Mr. Chris Lema. You've hit the post probably about 100 times this year, so maybe you were due. Did you have any thoughts running through your head as the goals were going in?
No, nothing in particular. I mean, I'm not really used to scoring 2, 3, 4 goals either. Maybe a goal every once in a while. So, I mean, playing the 10, a lot of the guys have been saying like, "Oh, you've been playing the 10 like a lot more recently." So hopefully you get a couple more goals. And I mean, they finally came, right?
Yeah. I was joking with Zach about that very thing. If they could count every post you hit this year, you guys would easily be leading the league in goals.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's something that actually John Wolnick was talking to me about. He was like, listen, you're hitting the post a lot, but in our eyes, that's basically a goal, just stay positive and keep trying, and, eventually they'll go in.
Yeah, I've wondered about how coaches approach that because, you're getting shots that you're not missing by a whole lot, and obviously you're doing the work to get yourself in good positions to have those. So it's interesting to hear that, you guys are commenting on it behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Talk about 2019 so far. The team obviously got off to a great start. There's been a little bit of inconsistency, but nothing terrible. You're still, right up there in the top 3 pretty much every week. Did you kind of expect heading into the season that it was going to be, rocking and rolling the way that it is?
I thought the team was going to be good. I mean, we kept a good little core of guys, and the mentality going into preseason was a good one. I mean, everybody from the trialists to the guys that were there already to the first team guys that would come down, everybody was very determined. So we knew we were gonna do well. How well, we weren't really sure, but I mean, the team started kicking and everything was going well. And I mean, yeah, we had a little rough patch there, but we kept on it, and we kept telling ourselves every day in training, we're like, listen, like, things aren't going well, but I mean, they weren't going well for the first team, and they stayed positive, and look at where they are now. So it's just whether it's a Red Bull thing or whatnot, you just got to know that eventually it'll all work. It'll all work itself out. Especially with the system and the way we play, it's so demanding that if we just stick to it, other teams just can't handle it. So I think it's just having faith in ourselves and our team and the system that we play.
And one thing I've always thought about the system is that, despite the fact that so much of it is defined as a group sort of movement and, how you guys press and how you transition to attack, it does put a premium on every individual performance, so that if any guys make mistakes, they could be, catastrophic in some ways. And when you look at the team and the makeup of the team of all these young guys and guys who are developing, you expect some of those breakdowns. So I never see it as a real negative when things start to go bad.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, yeah. And that's why we have, the coaching staff's really good with getting film and video. And, it's not that they're like singling out any player, but they try to explain what we can do better in every single situation. Every situation is different, so they just try to run ideas through your head. And then aside from video, on the training field, if you make the same mistake again, they'll explain to you, they'll stop training, and then they'll bring the team in together and really, really explain it. So, it's literally like going to school. They're teaching you on and off the field, and there's no better way to learn.
Now, this past week, obviously, we talked about that big win over Atlanta, but maybe the more important result was the one midweek against Bethlehem. 3-1, you got 15 minutes left to go. Things are looking kind of bleak, just in terms of that result, not in general. And then all of a sudden, everything started to click. And maybe coincidentally, that's around the weird incident with Issa Ryan, throwing up and then leaving the pitch. But it was sort of a weird match to take in. How was it being part of that match?
It was unbelievable. You got to see the guys after we walked into the locker room. Everybody was really hyped up. But it's a way to understand that with the style of play that we have, no game is ever finished till the 90th minute, regardless if we're winning by a few goals or we're losing. Since we demand so much in the attacking end and then demand so much in the defensive end, any game is up for grabs. So, the guys stayed positive, and we got the result that we needed.
Yeah, that's for sure. Turning to sort of, I guess, the bigger picture, you look at a guy like Tom Barlow, who came down in that match from the first team. He obviously started off very strong this season, sort of was promoted to the first team because of need, because Bradley was down and they were stretched kind of thin. And, overall, that could be something that can be seen as a big positive for your team, right? Because guys can look at that and say, if I do well and I succeed here, I can move up and get more playing time at a higher level. But maybe that can also be a distraction, right? Have you seen it go either way?
No, not really. At the end of the day, the goal is to be on the first team and to make it into the MLS. But as a team ourselves, we just want to win. So we want to do anything possible so that we can win, because at the end of the day, if you think about it, any of the guys that ended up making it onto the first team, they knew how to win. They won when they were on the USL team. So for us, winning is number one, and also developing as a player. And then you just have to have faith and belief that you will make it onto the first team as long as everything goes well.
The other thing I was looking at ahead of the show this week, again, the results have been fantastic, but now after this coming stretch of matches, most of the rest of the season is going to be on the road. And, you guys have done well for the most part on the road this season, but that's a really, long stretch through August and September where you're going to have to go out and get those results against difficult competition. Is that something you guys are looking at all right now?
Not as of right now. We're focusing on the next match against Memphis, but it's something that you might have on the back of your mind, but that's nothing that we're too worried about. As you mentioned, we've been pretty good on the road, and I think we're really confident. We're especially a lot more confident than we were last year on the road. That's for sure. Yeah. So hopefully we can use that confidence in our favor and get some more results.
That is for sure. Before I let you go, I'm going to subject you to a sort of Plan B lightning round. Sound good?
Yep.
All right. If you were going to have your autobiography, what do you call it?
Bend it like Lema.
I like that. That's good. You can be credited with any work of art, a book, a movie, a painting. I guess even throw a video game in there. What do you want to be your crowning achievement in the art world?
A movie.
Okay, what movie?
A specific movie?
Yeah.
Probably the goal movies.
Okay.
Since they're probably the most popular soccer ones.
I like that. Santi Munoz, is that right?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I've seen the first two. I never saw the third. Okay, you're on death row. What is your last meal?
Oh, a double quarter pounder from McDonald's.
I'm always so confused by some of these answers. This is your last meal ever. It's a double quarter pounder?
Yeah, I don't get the luxury of eating that all the time.
Oh, fair. All right,
it was
fair
a childhood favorite.
All right, fair enough. And the last question I have for you, this is for the Derek Etienne Award, which you were in the running for, by the way. Who is the worst answer on the New York Red Bulls 2?
Oh, 100% Evan. Evan Laurel.
Excellent. Very, very good. This is going to be a tight race. We're going to have I think a photo finish on this one. Chris, thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure talking to you, and we wish you nothing but the best this weekend against Memphis.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me.
And when we come back, we're going to preview that match, so stick around. And we're back. Two great interviews. You had some great game recaps at the beginning. Now we're going to preview this weekend's match against Memphis 901 FC. Memphis is not a strong team. They've really struggled this year. They've had a couple of wins. They did okay in the Open Cup there. They lost 2-0 last night to Nashville. And, things are certainly not going according to plan for this team in their first season. We have a couple of familiar names in this squad. Guys like Scott Levine, who we were big fans of. He was on this show last season. Red Bull's goalkeeper then, of course. Dan Metzger, who everybody should know. Metzger, of course, German for butcher. Dan the Butcher Metzger. Perfect name for him because he is such a great physical presence in the midfield. Former Red Bull Academy alumnus Adam Najem, brother of David, of course. And now, up top on his fifth or sixth team in the last couple of seasons, Brandon Allen plays for Memphis. A familiar face that we all remember. Brandon, of course, he is the current leading scorer for the New York Red Bulls too. I said that with a question, but I was running through those players in my head. Yes, he still owns that record. I believe it is 24 goals. If Tom Barlow can score 4 more, he will eclipse Allen's record. So that may not stand for much longer. This game is on Saturday. Memphis is on short rest. They're not a good team. In their last 5, they are 1-3-1. Overall, 3-9-5, 1-5-2 at home. Another team like Beth Steel that just does not win much at home. They're in a bad way. The team that they beat over the last couple of games was Hartford. Of course, that's not a huge victory. Hartford is also one of the weaker teams in the league. And before that, the last time they won was May 10th. So July 6th, May 10th are the last 2 wins this team has. Do you know which the other team that they beat was? I'm going to help you out here. It was also Hartford. They don't have very many wins on the season. In fact, 3 of them in total. They beat Beth Steel way back in March 24th. Their next win was in May. March, May. It's not a month that doesn't end in M, then they don't win. Oh, that doesn't work for July. But look, they struggle. I think the team defensively is not where they need it to be. a guy like Dan Metzger can only do so much in the midfield. It's just a poor lineup, and they've struggled. They've struggled all season long, keeping the ball out of the net. They do not get very many clean sheets. One of the few they did have this season came against Ottawa Fury. Even against Hartford, they couldn't keep them out. And, when you can't keep the ball out of the net, it's going to make things more difficult for you. And it's at this point in the season, I think a lot of heads are starting to hang because things have just gone so poorly.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm wondering if they can carry the momentum from the road win against Beth Steel into this, because that was their third road win on the year. I think the other one was Charlotte, and Atlanta 2 is the other one. So I wonder if they can carry that in. They still have their struggles this year against better teams, but I think this is a game that John and the staff and the team will look as a game that they have to win in order to keep pace with a lot of top teams, because, like you mentioned, Memphis hasn't been a good team this year. Yes, they do have some dangerous players. Adam the Gem has owned Red Bulls too, as far as I believe he scored in the their matchup earlier at Montclair State this year. And Brandon Allen, he's bounced from team to team, but he's still a pretty good goal scorer, and Dan Metzger is a good midfielder. But other than that, they really don't have much. I'm just wondering if this is a potential trap game before I believe Tampa comes to town next week.
They're back at home next week against Tampa. That is definitely going to be a tough game. So leading scorer for Memphis, 5 goals, Elliot Collier, then Dwayne Muckett 2, Mark Birch 2, and then a lot of other players, including Adam Najema, who had a goal in that match. That's his only one of the season. Metzger has 1, Allen has 1. It's definitely few and far between. And that's probably why they got a guy like Brandon Allen, is they need somebody who can be reliable in the final third. But, you also have to be able to get him the ball, and they haven't done a great job of creating those chances this season.
Yeah, and I will say the Red Bulls 2's road form has been much better than it has been in years past, because I believe they didn't get their first road win until late in the season last year. So they've already tripled their win total from last year at this point in time. So I don't know. It's tough, because this is one of those games that you would think with this team, the way they're playing, they should win. But I don't know. I'm part of me is wondering if they might look past this game and see that Tampa Bay game, where that's a huge game coming up. And, I know players say they don't look past games, but I really think they're eyeing that Tampa Bay matchup because they want revenge for earlier in the season.
I could see that. Just a quick little stat dump for you. Cameron Lindley for Memphis and Adam Najem are the 2 top chance creators for them. 25 for Lindley and 21 key passes. Right? Those 2 numbers together do not equal the top, even one of the top 2 players for Red Bulls too. Jared Stroud has 53 key passes this season, and Chris Lema has 50.
Jeez.
Those are crazy, crazy numbers.
Yes.
I mean, look, this team, Memphis has... the Seeing Red curse is about to come out. Memphis has no reason they should win this game other than it being a trap game. And even with that, I think there's enough time in between that they'll be able to get a result. So let's get a prediction out of you, Joe.
Oh, man. I'm going to say... I'm going to say a 2-0 win for Red Bulls 2.
Okay.
I think they'll keep a clean sheet. I think John and the coaching staff will have this team ready. I think they're riding too much momentum now, as coming off one really good come from behind performance and one dominating performance. You've touched on it. Memphis doesn't really have any goal scorers or any threats. There's just a part of me that's just wondering, this is a type of game where they should win, and they either draw it or they lose. But I mean, I'm predicting a win.
Yeah, I'm going to be right there with you. I think they should win. Depending on what attackers go, will depend on how confident I am that they score more than 2 goals.
Mm-hmm.
But just to be different, I'm going to say it's a 3-1 win. I think Memphis will be able to pull one in, probably through Brandon Allen, assisted by Adam Najem, as the Red Bulls would want to do. Although you'd have to get Dan Metzger involved as well somehow. But yeah, I'll say 3-1. I think that's fair. Let's take a look at the standings real quick. That match next week looms large. Right now, Tampa Bay and New York Red Bulls even on matches played with 19. Tampa Bay ahead by 3 points on the Red Bulls too. So if you look at some of those matches where they really laid an egg, or the 2 draws where they were up a man, I think they loom pretty large in the grand scheme of things, because they could be on top right now. Obviously, also the match in Tampa Bay. But so Tampa Bay up top with 40 points, then New York Red Bulls 2 at 37, Indy and North Carolina at 34, just underneath them. Then Nashville at 32, Louisville at 30. Louisville, take that, Russ. Ottawa Fury 29, Pittsburgh Riverhounds 26, Charleston Battery 23, and Charlotte Independence on 23. I'm only doing the top 10 this week, guys. St. Louis fell out of it. Let's just put it that way. Charlotte's got a little bit of a revival going on. Good for them.
Yeah,
I like to see that. The teams that fell out of playoff position this week, though, it's kind of sad for both Beth Steel and St. Louis fell below the line. Both teams started off kind of well this year. A little sad to see. Out west, Phoenix Rising, still rocking and rolling. They're 11-2-5 right now. I don't remember the last time that they didn't get maximum points. It's been a while.
I think it's 9 games in a row.
9? That sounds right. Yeah, I'll give it to you. May 4th is the last time they lost a match.
Yeah, 9 in a row. Yeah.
They did not like Star Wars Day. So they're up top with 38 points. Then Reno, who's also red hot right now, and Fresno are right behind them with 35 and 34 points. Austin Bold all the way up into 4th place right now. If you remember at the beginning of the season, Las Vegas made a proclamation that they would win their match against Austin Bold. That didn't happen, and now Austin's sitting well ahead of them in the standings. Portland Timbers at 28 points, same as El Paso Locomotive. Real Monarchs, SLC, 27. Sac Republic, 26. New Mexico United, wow, have they fallen, 26 points. And then OKC Energy at 26, just underneath them. I guess the most notable teams under the line right now, San Antonio, who's been great the last couple seasons, and Orange County, who's really having a tough year. Not too much else to say about that. Go ahead.
I mean, 8 through 14 is separated by 4 points. So, yeah. I mean,
it's pretty nuts out west.
It's crazy. It's the Wild West. It's crazy.
It's the Wild West, where they all know how to attack and very few of them know how to defend. The last thing I want to talk about tonight, Sam Stejskal put out an article for The Athletic about a couple of sources are saying that USL is going to drop MLS-owned teams from 2nd tier to 3rd tier by 2021. We know a lot of these teams: Atlanta United, Loudoun, LA Galaxy 2, Red Bulls 2, Beth Steel, Portland Timbers 2, Real Monarchs, Tacoma Defiance, and Swope Park Rangers. Right? There's a couple others in there that have already gone down. But those 9 teams, really only 2.5 of them seem to be taking USL seriously. Well, you know what? I'll say 3, because Beth Steel is absolutely going all in every year. So
true.
You've got Real Salt Lake, Red Bulls, Beth Steel, who, yes, they're going in. They're not necessarily getting the results that they want, and Portland Timbers. Those 4 teams have done really well in terms of sporting over the last 2 seasons. The Red Bulls a little bit longer than that. The rest of the teams seem to be phoning it in. They're having trouble getting people through the turnstiles, which, you know, we're not surprised about with our own situation in Montclair, that is. But they're also having trouble on the field, and I think it's starting to drive some of the independent teams wild that maybe they're not taking it very seriously. that makes games against them feel less important. It's also hard to game plan against these teams because of the shifting landscape of their roster that happens to accommodate MLS loan downs and other sort of issues like that. And, the independent teams are really marketing their team and looking to push attendance numbers week in and week out, and these other teams are not doing their job. So in this article, first I want to get your thoughts about that before I go into anything else.
I can see a lot of these teams' points because I do think of the teams you mentioned. I think Red Bulls too. Beth Steel really doesn't draw. But that's not really. That's not. I think they go all in every year. I think Real Monarchs is another team that does a good job, and I think Portland too is too. But Red Bulls too. They've also been one of the most successful teams in the league. So I don't get how you can move a team that constantly is in the playoffs or makes the Eastern Conference Finals. They've made they made the finals. They won the USL Cup. I don't get how you can move a team down like that and expect them to not win every single game.
Right.
I understand a lot of these teams' point with loaning down players and. It's an unfair advantage. It's a little bit of an unfair advantage, and a lot of these teams are trying to grow their brand and help USL Championship be able to grow and be that that second tier league to MLS. So I understand where a lot of these teams are coming from, but I think the teams that actually take it seriously and constantly put a good product out and have success, I don't think they should be moved down.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. I think on the sporting side, it's a real slap in the face because it's not like the Red Bulls too, specifically, are not putting in a lot of time and effort into this league. All of the teams that we've seen come out and play for Red Bull 2, the coaches, the entire organization takes it very seriously. You wouldn't see them in 3 straight Eastern Conference Finals if they didn't care a little bit about this team and this league. And the other part of it is, to stay as a Division 2 side, they had to put updates in place at MSU to accommodate the size and have locker room and all this stuff. And they put significant resources into that as well. And so it certainly seems like it would be a little bit of a slap in the face for them to put the resources in the way that they did and then have nothing to show for it and be forced down. So that's certainly an issue. And, in the story, they talk about one team in particular is really fighting this. And
I can imagine who it
it doesn't want to be shifted down. Can't imagine what team that would be.
It's not like that Red Bulls 2 they loan down players every week in order to, I think the only consistent player that's been loaned down this year has been Jorgensen. And if anything, they're loaned down and they play maybe 1 or 2 games to get up to speed before they rejoin the first team. This isn't a consistent thing. I don't even think last year, for the most of the year, they had players loaned down. They had guys on MLS contracts that were loaned down for the year, but it's not like they're loaning some of their best players down to beat these teams. It's not the case.
Right. We saw a couple of times that Gonzalo Verón was loaned down to Red Bull 2, but that was really a spot start situation. And it's not like he tore up USL either. The other issue to look at here is USL was kind of a floundering, struggling league for a little while there, and their plan became, let's expand very quickly in as many markets as we can. And the first teams to jump on that and help grow the league were MLS 2 sides. And some of them obviously are not still around, but they certainly feel like they put a big stake in growing the league. And it seems like a real slap in the face to then get pushed down. So the actual quote in this about the MLS club was, One MLS club source saying there's no way we'd acquiesce to a move from the Championship to League One after years of investment in USL. And yeah, I can't blame them there. What are your thoughts, listeners? What do you guys think about this? Should USL teams force MLS2 teams down? Is that somehow hurting the USL brand, carrying these teams that aren't necessarily getting fans in seats? And how do you fix that if you're an MLS2 team, if that's the stipulation is that you have to have an attendance requirement, which that's insane.
Yeah.
I can't see them being able to actually enforce that.
Oh, man. They just have to get more people to come to the games then.
Yeah. So how do you do that as an MLS side? I'm interested in hearing from you listeners. What do you guys think? And with that brings us to the end of another episode of Raising Bulls. You can find us on Twitter at _Joe Goldstein.
I am at JSteen15.
And if you'd like to follow the show, and we hope you do, we are at Raising Bull Cast. That's one bull, Raising Bull Cast. And of course, that's all on Twitter. You can also follow our work at the Red Bulls News Network, rbnn.us. Only a couple of letters. You guys can do it. I know you can. You can follow my work, Joe's work, and many more. Bill's photography is up there on a weekly basis. It's good stuff. Whew. Oh, and we're on Twitter at RB News Network. You can find us at facebook.com/raisingbulls. You can go to raisingbulls.com where we put all of our episodes. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Find us, rate us, review us. It helps and it matters. Please save us. We're not in danger. We're okay. If we're not on the podcast network or streamer or aggregator that you are partial to, let us know and we'll figure out a way to get up there. We're part of the Beautiful Game Network at bgn.fm, covering MLS, USL, Premier League, NWSL. They've got so many great shows. Sock Takes, the other football podcast, 901 Soccer Pod, Speedway Soccer, the Curse Cast, 6 Point Weekend, Off the Pitch, Orange and Black Soccer Cast, Rising as One, and so much more. They've got a ton of great podcasts for the USL. They've got a lot of great written content. Head over there at bgn.fm. That's the Beautiful Game Network at bgn.fm. Not last but not least, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Golden Goal Press, the best choice for you to get custom shirts, hats, mugs, and other items for just yourself or your organization. Check out their amazing products at a fraction of the price of other places at goldengoalpress.com. And of course, last but not least, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Roughneck Scarves, the official scarf supplier of MLS, USL, and US Soccer. Get custom scarves for your group or team at roughneckscarves.com. For myself, Joe Steen, Jean-Christophe Koffi, and Chris Lema, not Lima, Lema. Thank you very much and have a great night.